Midnight in London. Inside the Jewel House vault, the corridor was silent. The thick stone walls of the tower absorbed every sound except one, the faint hum of climate systems protecting centuries of royal history. And then, precisely at 9 minutes past midnight, Greenwich Mean Time, the countdown display embedded in the steel vault door changed. The timer reached 0, the screen flickered, and a single word appeared: expired. Inside the vault, 3 velvet trays had been prepared, each labeled with a name that still echoes through modern royal history: Diana. 2 trays held jewels carefully preserved under glass, but the 3rd tray was empty. The Art Deco diamond bracelet once worn by the Princess of Wales had not been returned, and by sunrise the next morning, the story surrounding that missing jewel would stretch across 2 continents and ignite one of the most controversial royal questions of the modern era. For centuries, the jewels of the British monarchy have symbolized more than wealth. They represent continuity, history, and the idea that certain objects belong not to individuals, but to the nation itself. From coronation crowns to tiaras worn at state banquets, these pieces are often treated less like personal accessories and more like artifacts. But sometimes the line between personal jewelry and royal property becomes blurred. And when that happens, even a single bracelet can become the center of a global debate. In recent years, few figures have generated as much public discussion as Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Their departure from royal duties in 2020 reshaped the modern monarchy. But according to some reports and speculative narratives circulating online, another conflict may have been unfolding quietly behind palace walls. A conflict involving royal heirlooms, insurance records, and a bracelet once worn by Princess Diana. In the early 1990s, Diana had already become one of the most photographed women in the world. Every public appearance generated headlines, every dress sparked trends, and every piece of jewelry she wore carried meaning. Among the many pieces commissioned during that era was a bracelet designed in a subtle Art Deco style. Unlike some of the more elaborate royal jewels, this bracelet was restrained. It featured a geometric platinum structure with a central cushion-cut diamond. Elegant, understated, timeless. Photographs from charity receptions and diplomatic events show Diana wearing the bracelet occasionally during the early 1990s. It was never her most famous jewel, but within the internal records of the royal collection, the bracelet carried a particular designation. It was listed under a classification sometimes described as hereditary heirlooms. That classification meant the piece was considered part of a broader institutional collection, not private property, not a personal gift. Instead, it was categorized as jewelry that could be worn by members of the royal family, but ultimately remained under the stewardship of the crown. After Diana's death in 1997, the future of many of her personal belongings became complicated. Some items were inherited by her sons, others remained within the royal collection, and still others existed in a gray area between personal ownership and royal heritage. Over the years, pieces associated with Diana occasionally resurfaced in public appearances. Jewels carry symbolism inside the monarchy. When a piece once worn by Diana appears again, it often sparks intense interest. It connects the present generation of royals with the memory of the past. So when younger members of the royal family married, certain heirloom pieces were sometimes made available. But historically, many of these jewels were loaned, not permanently transferred. That distinction matters greatly, because inside the royal system, a loan is temporary, and a loaned jewel must eventually return to the collection. When Prince Harry married Meghan Markle in 2018, the wedding quickly became one of the most watched royal events in modern history. Millions tuned in around the world. The ceremony symbolized a new era for the monarchy, a new American duchess entering one of the oldest royal institutions in Europe. After the wedding, various jewelry pieces associated with Diana appeared in Meghan's wardrobe. Some of these were widely known. For example, diamonds from Diana's collection were incorporated into Meghan's engagement ring, but other pieces were less documented. Over time, speculation about the status of certain jewels began appearing in royal commentary forums and tabloid discussions. Were these pieces personal gifts, or were they loans from the royal collection? The answer depended entirely on palace records. Within the royal household, jewel management is surprisingly bureaucratic. Archivists maintain ledgers documenting every item. Each entry includes details about provenance, classification, and status. Some items are recorded as private gifts. Others are listed as state property. Still others fall under categories like hereditary heirlooms, meaning they remain within the royal collection, but can be worn by designated members of the family. These records rarely become public, but according to royal historians, the distinction between gift and loan has occasionally led to quiet disagreements behind the scenes. Jewelry, after all, carries both financial value and emotional symbolism. A single piece can represent history, prestige, and personal memory all at once. And when circumstances change, such as when a royal couple steps away from official duties, the question of ownership can become complicated. In early 2020, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announced they would step back from their roles as senior working royals. The decision triggered an unprecedented transition. The couple relocated to California. Their public roles changed dramatically, and new commercial ventures soon followed. But behind the scenes, administrative processes inside the royal household continued. One of those processes involved inventory reconciliation. Whenever a royal household changes status, palace staff review the status of items associated with that household. This can include documents, art, and jewelry. Most of the time, this process happens quietly. Items are returned, records are updated, and the public never hears about it. But some commentators claim that questions surrounding certain pieces of jewelry lingered longer than expected. Part 6, the insurance question. 29/34 Agways. In some versions of the story circulating online, an insurance claim reportedly became part of the narrative. According to those reports, a bracelet associated with Diana had been declared lost in transit. Insurance claims involving valuable jewelry are not unusual. Luxury items can disappear during travel or shipping. Insurance companies exist precisely to handle such scenarios. But in this particular narrative, speculation arose about whether the item might have appeared somewhere unexpected. Some online commentators suggested that a diamond matching the bracelet's description had been identified during an unrelated financial investigation in the United States. However, publicly verified evidence for such claims remains limited. Still, the story gained traction in certain corners of the internet. And as often happens with royal mysteries, speculation filled the gaps where confirmed information was unavailable. One of the most notable aspects of royal controversies is how rarely the palace responds directly. Official statements tend to be brief, precise, and carefully worded. When rumors circulate, the palace often declines to comment. That silence can have two effects. Sometimes it calms the story, other times it fuels even more speculation. In the case of the supposed missing bracelet, no formal confirmation of the dramatic claims ever emerged. But the story continued to circulate through blogs, forums, and social media discussions about royal history. Whether the bracelet story represents misunderstood paperwork, exaggerated rumor, or something more complicated remains unclear. But the narrative reveals something deeper about the monarchy. Royal jewels are not just ornaments. They are symbols. Symbols of continuity, symbols of tradition, and sometimes symbols of conflict. Because in a family where history stretches back centuries, even the smallest object can carry enormous weight. And somewhere inside the secure vaults of the Tower of London, beneath layers of glass and steel, the catalog of royal jewels continues to grow. Each entry is carefully recorded. Each story is quietly preserved, waiting for history to decide which ones will truly matter.